The axe may forget, and the tree may remember, but the lightsaber doesn't give a Yes, hello interwebs, and welcome to my review of the latest episode of Star Wars Andor, Season 1, Episode 5, The Axe Forgets. And sorry, I had to do it because I just got this in the mail. I got this actually at Disneyland when I went there a few months ago with a friend, and they just were able to mail it with me because I couldn't take this damn thing on the plane. And it's just kind of cool. Look at it. It's like an actual, hefty lightsaber. I can change the colors. It's a lot of fun. But anyways, it makes too much noise for me to hold this entire time during the review. So I'm gonna have it here and hope it doesn't cleave off my arm. Because let's talk more about Star Wars Andor. This was another excellent episode of the Star Wars Andor, and I am just so happy to be enthusiastic about a Star Wars show again. It has been so long since I've had that level of enthusiasm again, and just it's nice to come into an episode of Star Wars Andor knowing that I can be excited to watch it, because this one is another kind of slower paced, slow burn episode, but it is one that I appreciate. And I see a lot of comments on a bunch of my reviews of people saying that they think the pace is too slow, which I totally understand. It's definitely a different vibe from other Star Wars series, but I really respect it and enjoy it because it's allowing us to sit with these characters and get to know them and what makes them tick. This was an episode really focused on our sort of small crew doing this heist against the Empire. And what I really loved about it is that normally in another Star Wars show, all of these characters would have just kind of become a melange of people that I ultimately would have forgotten their name, and they were just sort of there to perform a function and then sort of be forgotten in the larger narrative of the show. But instead, with this episode, we get to sit and get to know a decent amount of these characters so that we can kind of get a sense of who they are, what their ideology is, what led them to join this rebellion, whether it be revenge or hatred or anger or just wanting to get back at somebody, like petty revenge, or actually having ideology behind it, like they're a true believer in the cause. Each character comes at it from a different aspect, and then it's all of that is then just placed into this pressure cooker of a situation as they prepare to go up against the Empire. And you just get the sense of they really are just a ragtag group of people that just barely have the skills to conceivably pull this off. Just barely it is possible. And so you just take all these disparate personalities and shove them together in a tense situation, and they have to work together, and you just see the messiness of that, the distrust of all of that. And I thought it was just a really excellent look at what resistance cells like this are. In real actual rebellions against fascist movements like the Empire, you do have these disparate personalities forced to work together because they don't have anyone else. They may all be fighting the same enemy, but they're not there for the same reasons. And I just seeing that in this episode and the understanding of that, and getting to show us characters that we actually care about, unlike something like maybe the Book of Boba Fett, where a bunch of those characters just became flat and I didn't really care too much about them. They were just sort of background noise or functions for the plot, like objects really to facilitate the plot. These are all characters. And I think that just showcases to me the excellence of writing that this show has going forward. And it really builds to when we do get the heist, presumably next episode, I am going to care about the characters that are in that heist because I've gotten to know them. I actually will be sad if one of them dies or gets hurt, and I will feel the tension. And that's built up on episodes like this. So while some people may dislike the slow pace, and again, I understand that it is different than a lot of different Star Wars, and I'm not knocking that by any means. It's, people come to Star Wars wanting specific things, and that's fine to have that expectation. But for me, I prefer this because it does make those moments of action when we get them, make it be something that I care about. It's something that we saw in the first 3 episodes of the series, building that 3rd episode. And here I think it's being done even better because we don't have those characters like the jealous boyfriend character, who I didn't really care about at all in that episode. I kind of care about everyone here. So let's actually start talking specifics here. I loved seeing Karn, our failed police officer, mini fascist dude, having to deal with his mother character who clearly just like has built up this sense of like, you need to be a man and get out there and do this thing, and yet also constantly like subtly judges him and emasculates him whenever he's home. Like this constant like, well, you failed, you don't have any prospects, I'll call your uncle who can help you, he'll get you out of this, you can't really pull it up by yourself. And he's just sort of sitting there having to eat cereal like a kid. And again, you get the sense of just this emasculation feeling that he has, that sort of like incel-y vibe of someone who wants to like just regain that sense of, yeah, I can do it. That sort of like speaks to him having been that police officer, as we saw on those like rent-a-cop sort of things, because it's like he couldn't make it in like the military, but he still wanted to enact that power that he's been told to have his entire life, that sort of emasculation feel, and it just works. And you see him looking at that picture of Andor at the end of the episode, it makes me feel like, oh, they're going to be setting him up to go be on a collision course with Andor, going into probably after this heist that we're going to see next episode. He'll sort of be a recurring antagonist. So I just like it reads so true to that type of character, the sort of rent-a-cop emasculated dude. So I loved all of that. We also get a small scene with Deirdre here, who is like trying to find the pattern and everything, and just sort of going after stuff. And I'm curious to see if she's right or not, because we get this idea that Luthen may be behind all of these sort of like missing pieces, and that's why it's like too random to actually be random and doing it smart. But I actually could also just see it being random, and she's just really just trying too hard to prove herself in these moments. And you sort of get this like, she's looking through all these like papers, and she's taking stimulants, Adderall or some sort with this guy. So yeah, she's just really dead set on it. So just interesting little sort of touch point with her. But this brings us to the meat of the episode. And we get to, again, learn and know a lot more about our characters sort of trying to pull off this heist. And I love, again, Andor being, like, seeing, like, you don't really know what you're doing, do you? Like, you don't know how to pilot this ship, when they sort of ask him how to read the weight. And he's like, look, I'm doing this because you clearly don't know. And it just speaks to, again, the ragtag feel of this crew. But again, I like learning more about these different characters. We have, I believe his name is Arvel, who is the sort of ex-Imperial officer who bonds with Andor over what sort of having both been in the fight in the military in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not an Imperial officer, but he was in the military in some way, shape, or form. And so sort of referring to the events that Andor had been in, where he escaped as a cook, that we heard referred to by Luthen last episode. And he sort of has this kind of chip on his shoulder towards Andor, or at least a little bit of a distrust, even though he does sort of bond with him a little bit, and sort of is just instinctually distrustful of Andor. Rightfully so, to a degree, because Andor's not telling them the entire truth. But we also get Nemik, who is really a true believer. Like, he believes in the cause. That's why he's here. And he's very smart. And he's kind of like a baby Karl Marx. He's like, I'm going to write my manifesto. I'm going to like get these ideas out there and really build what our government can be. I still worry for him dying, because like this true believer mentality and him being a kid, I'm like, it would be tragic if he is the one to die. So if I had to put bets, it's probably gonna be him, which makes me sad, because I love him, and he's like everything that I want as a character. So I'm really worried that he's possibly going to be the one to die. But again, he's sort of one of those people that you kind of need in a revolution again like this. Like, you can fight against the Empire, but if you're not eventually going to fight for something, you can sort of start to see power vacuums being being fought over in the aftermath of something like this. So you really need like an ideology to be built around, beyond just fuck the Empire. And so like people like him are necessary in this sort of revolution that we're having here. Whether or not his ideology will be good, we'll see. But it's sort of an interesting one to put in there. I really, one wonders if they'll have Disney will make a piece that eventually goes like workers' rights. I mean, hell yeah. But I don't know. I don't know if they'll allow them to go that far with this show. But I do like Nemik quite a bit. We get to meet some of the other characters. I forget the gentleman who is sort of teaching Andor how to like be a soldier, and Andor sort of like correcting him a little bit because he's been in the military, and him sort of like having like, come, I'm in charge here, don't question me, and sort of like little power grabs. But it's not like sort of, I like that it doesn't hit the heights of like Andor, like, you need to listen to me. It's like not that heightened drama. It's just like subtle tensions between all of them. Like I could see a lesser screenwriter having gone like with an over the top sort of like these two being at each other, but no, it's subtle, and they don't dislike each other, but there's just differences in their approach, and Andor may be more competent but is willing to toe the line here because he's being paid to do it. this all leads to when our characters sort of head out to do the job and are preparing in the night. And I like seeing, again, this tension just ratcheting up for them, where they see the TIE fighter fly overhead and they get a remembrance of, like, this is what we're facing and we could all die tomorrow. And that sort of builds their anxiety to the point where Arvel does take the Kyber crystal off of Andor, which I forget where that Kyber crystal came from. I think it was the thing that his sister gave him? I don't entirely remember off the top of my head. Or was it the thing that Luthen paid him with? I don't remember. But anyways, he has the Kyber crystal and sort of reveals that Andor was only there for the money. And I like Andor saying, like, look, you're just looking for a reason to call this off because you're scared. You're scared that you're going to die, rightfully so. But if it wasn't me, and I'm open and honest about the fact that it is me, that I am just here for money, if it wasn't me, you'd find something else to find anxiety over, or a reason to call this off, because it's all about the fear that you're feeling, which is understandable. But there's a difference, as he said, between fear and losing your nerve. And so that's a sort of an interesting distinction that he makes in his mind. And then we get the sort of Arvel apologizing to him kind of at the end of the night. And it's sort of like, again, these two men who don't want to be super open with their feelings, sort of like connecting, and Arvel sort of saying, like, look, my brother died by suicide, and I don't know what I feel right now, but it's definitely not anything good. It's beyond hate for the Empire for what they did to my brother. And they're able to connect over that, and they can't make a full apology because dude bros, but it's enough for them to understand each other, and I did really like that. One last thing that I forgot to mention is Mon Mothma too. We didn't get too many scenes with her, but you just see how alone she really is. She can't connect with her husband. She can't connect with her child. Like, both of them push her away when she makes attempts to be close to them. Her kid just is like, I don't really care. You're just doing this for your own self. You don't really care about me. When you see that she's making a somewhat earnest attempt, but she, again, is sort of self-centered to a degree. Like, I don't think it's like, again, I like the subtlety. It's not like she's like, I'm all about myself, but she's unable to really connect because she has to live in this very self-centered role to protect herself in the Empire. Yet it has ramifications on her relationship with her kid. And then her husband is just she hates him. You just sense that, like, tension between the two. She's like, oh, I thought you wouldn't be interested in my in this organization that I was forming because it's charitable. You don't care about charity. And the husband's like, drive faster, because I don't want to spend time in this awkward conversation anymore. And it's like, whew, this marriage is not a good one, not a healthy one by any means. So you really get the sense of, like, what Mon Mothma has to deal with by sort of placing herself in this situation of caring and wanting to help the rebellion. It just distances her from her entire family. And so, again, another subtle thing there. And then I loved ending the episode with Luthen, who sort of is, like, nervously checking in on things. Again, it's just all about this pressure cooker of a situation like this where everyone's tense and on edge right before the big event. It was all great. And it really is starting to build up tension for next episode, where we will presumably get the heist. And they've laid the groundwork so excellently that I am like, when we get into it, it's going to go off and they're going to shut off all those Chekhov guns. And so far, I trust this show to do it effectively and well. They've laid all the pieces out excellently. So that's my thoughts on episode 5 of Star Wars Andor, another great episode of this show. I am continually excited. Hopefully next episode with the heist, we will continue to see that excellent writing continue. But it is just, again, I will reiterate it is just so nice to be excited for a Star Wars thing again. I've liked Mandalorian, had a lot of issues with Boba Fett and Obi-Wan, and I liked Obi-Wan, less so with Boba Fett. And I enjoy Mandalorian quite a bit, but I still have issues with it. This is the first Star Wars project in a while where I've really felt like this is excellent. This is truly excellent. Maybe it'll fall on its face, but so far I'm loving it. That's my thoughts on Star Wars Andor. I'd love to hear all your thoughts down in the comments below. Beyond all of that, thank you so much for being here. I hope you all, my friends, I should say live long and prosper. That feels sacrilegious with the lightsaber in my hand. So I'll just say, may the Force be with you.